Hello, how are you? And hello to all you new subscribers. We're happy to have you, aren't we, new subscriber milestone?
I'm a subscriber.
Yes, you are. We've been celebrating, haven't we?
My lungs are full of glitter.
Yes, they are. So a lot of you have asked whether I could tell you how I made this little fella.
Hello.
So that's what I'm going to be doing. And if you didn't happen to see the video he was in, then click the link on the screen now. So I'm going to explain my current process for building these monsters and props. So I'll treat this like a tutorial in case you want to try it yourself, but it will be very specific to how I made this little buddy. But you can use the process to make your own terrifying creature. So first, we'll be needing a materials list. You'll be needing monster clay, kitchen foil, some kind of sculpting tools. I just used the cheap ones off Amazon. Polymorph plastic, these reborn baby doll's eyes, a hot glue gun and hairdryer, our old friend liquid latex, and liquid latex thickener, an old pillow, some acrylic paints, some kind of satin sealer spray, and clear nail varnish, scraps of plasticine, plaster of Paris, some sturdy wire, 5-minute epoxy resin, and various tools and buckets and stuff that you'll see in the video. Monster clay is reusable, so these are the scraps from the last video. It's oil-based clay, so it softens up with heat, and you can reuse it time and time again. So just pop it in the microwave for a minute or two and give it a stir. We're going to first sculpt the buddy out of clay. So I didn't have much of the way of references for this, apart from these two fantastic images. I kind of made it up as I went along a bit. So make a ball of foil for the main part of the head, and then coat it with your heated up monster clay. So once I had the shape of the head, I positioned the eyes where I wanted them to be. I'll show you how I made them red later. Then I built up the details around the eye with little sausages of clay, and then I blended them in to make the eyelids, the wrinkles, and the crow's feet. I just went with what looked good as I was doing it. I continued to build up the face. I built up the ridge of the nose and the top lip. I added those lovely hanging cheek flaps, and then blended that all in again. Added these secondary flaps and blended them. And then I started on the head holes. I made a little ring of clay and popped it where I wanted the hole to be, marked on the inside of the ring, and excavated within to make the hole. And then I added a load of detail in like I did with the eyes. Lots and lots of head holes. Next I made the bottom half of the jaw, so I made another ball of foil, smaller this time, and coated it with clay again. I added the jaw holes and added details as before. Since this clay gets soft when it gets warm, you can use a hairdryer to heat the top layer and smooth it all out. So that's what I'm doing here, warming up the surface and getting rid of all the little bumps and grooves. And finally, I just added a few little freckles on the cheeks. So next I made the legs, so I did the same thing by making a core of foil and then covering it in clay. The foil is just to save on the amount of clay you use. Then I sculpted the hands and the fingers to the bottom of the leg, and obviously I did it twice. Next, we're going to make a mold with our plaster of Paris. So we're going to make two molds, one for the bottom jaw and one for the top half of the head. And we want to retain a hole in the back of our molds to remove the clay and pour in the liquid latex. So on our sculpt, we're going to build a little barrier with the plasticine, and then just plonk them on an old plate or tray or something to cast them. Mix your plaster of Paris as per the mixing instructions on the bag. And the first coat you mix wants to be quite watered down. This is the detail coat that will pick up all the nice little bumps and ridges on your sculpt. So you spread this coat on first, and then after that you build it up with thicker layers to add strength to the mold. I think it said on the bag it takes a couple of hours to dry and harden, but I left it overnight just to be safe. And now we need to remove our sculpt from the plaster of Paris. So first remove the plasticine. Now be careful with this next step, but what I tend to do is preheat my oven to the lowest setting, pop the plaster of Paris mold with the monster clay in it in the oven on a tray for half an hour to an hour, but keep checking it all the time. Don't leave and forget about it. This will slowly soften up the clay inside the model and make it a lot easier to remove. So then remove the clay and the foil from the mold. Now for my favorite bit, the latex. So we're going to pour out some liquid latex into a container and add some latex thickener. It'll say on your latex thickener how much to add. So brush some of this latex on the inside of the mold all the way around, and then once you've got a first coating, pour the rest in. Leave it for 30 minutes and then pour the excess from the molds back into the container. Since there's less detail on the legs, I didn't bother molding them, so I just painted latex directly onto the sculpt. Because of the awkward shape of the legs, I had to do this in two. I did the hand first, did a few coats on that, then did the back end of the leg, a few more coats on that. Let all that dry, and then remove the chin and the head from the molds, and roll the latex off the legs. Before you do this, you probably want to dust the legs with talcum powder so the latex doesn't stick to itself. You're probably going to have to cut a hole in the palm to get all of the clay out, but that'll be useful later when we stuff it. And then we're going to cut out the eye holes and the chin and the head holes. We need a really sharp knife to do this, and be very careful because I did stab myself quite a few times. So on a different flat surface, paint on a couple of circles of your thickened liquid latex. So back to the legs, and we're going to cut a length of wire, the length of the leg, and then cut a second, then we're going to twist the two together and tape them together. This is going to be the structure for the leg. Put the wire within the leg, take your old pillow and tear it apart, and then use the stuffing to stuff the inside of your leg. And once your leggy's all stuffed, glue up the slit in your palm, and then once that's dried, liquid latex over it to seal it up so you can't see it. So we're going to paint the eyes now. All I did was just paint the edges with red acrylic paint, brush off the worst of it so you just got a little bit left, and then varnish the eye with clear nail varnish. Then glue your eyes in place with a hot glue gun, then clamp your leggies together and tape them up. And now for a short musical interlude. So, clamp the jaw to the head and glue it with a hot glue gun, then clamp the legs to the head and glue those with a hot glue gun. Then take our patches of latex we made earlier and glue them over the back to seal up the hole. Then latex over everything to seal it all together. Now, we're gonna paint him. So mix the paint color you want for the skin tone and add a little dribble of liquid latex to make the paint flexible and stick to our model. So paint it all over, let it dry, yay, and paint all over again. Now we're gonna do a wet wash of brown acrylic paint. So we're gonna really water down the paint and we're just gonna wash over the body and then we're gonna wipe away the top level of the paint to just leave the brown in all the nooks and crannies. And then a little more of the skin tone to bring out the highlights. And finally, we're gonna use a light brush of red to really pick out the highlights in places like around the mouth and the eyes. And once that's done, coat the whole thing in liquid latex, but not the stuff you thickened up, just your normal liquid latex. And then wait for it to dry. Next, we're gonna use our polymorph plastic to make the teeth. So we're gonna get our plastic, we're gonna put it in some water and warm that water in the microwave for a bit. This plastic becomes moldable in your hand when it reaches a certain temperature. It's there in the packet what you need to do, so just be careful with the heat. Pellets will melt to form one ball, so cut a little bit of plastic off the main ball and then just roll out a tooth in your hand. And do this a few times till you have as many teeth as you want. Then paint the teeth with yellow paint and brush off most of it, so you just leave a little hint of yellow. And then use clear nail varnish to seal up the teeth and give them a shine. Then use your hot glue gun and glue the teeth in, and then give them a spray over with your satin sealer. This just seals off the model so it can't get damaged and it gives it a bit of a meaty shine. And then for the finishing touches, mix some light green acrylic paint and then mix in some of your 5-minute epoxy resin and give it all a jolly good mix. And then add this to all your head and chin holes to make it look nice and snotty.
Lovely.
And mix some more clear epoxy resin and just dab it along the underside of the lip to make him look like he's dribbling. Then finally we're going to make some toenails from our polymorph plastic. So heat your plastic up again, cut off your toenail shapes and then mold them around the toe to the shape you want them to be. Paint them as you did the teeth and varnish them, and then use your hot glue gun to glue them to your toes. And the last step is to add this little possessed beating heart to bring him to life. And there we have it, a walking, talking breakup buddy. So thanks for watching. I put a load of Amazon affiliate links in the description below for all the materials I used, in case you want to try and make something terrifying yourselves. If you do make something, please send me a link on Twitter or Instagram. The links for those are in the description as well. And let me know if you want me to keep making this kind of video in between my main sketches, since this is only my second one anyway. Massive thank you to all my new Patreons, you crazy, generous people. There's a few, and they are, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce all of these. Jevon Thompson, Viviana, Lauren Levici, Johan Sletton, Will Manning, Harley Rose Griffin, Thomas Nordsage, Alice Anderson, Hawking, Modsec Alberganon, Friedrich Hunstock, and Sentient Meatbag. I hope I said those right. So if you, like these lovely, lovely weirdos, want to help support my videos and get access to special Patreon perks, then go ahead and click the link to my Patreon page and have a look around. See if you fancy it. Have a nose. Thank you. Okay, bye.